Hey guys, Nick from Long Island Wargaming bringing you a battle report, 2,000 points of Warriors of Chaos versus Ogre Kingdoms. We're using our 2012 Warriors of Chaos book and our 2011 Ogre Kingdoms book, and this battle report was done by request, so here it is. So Ryan will be using my Ogre Kingdoms army, and I will be using the Warriors of Chaos army, and here is our battlefield. 3 buildings, 2 mysterious forests, and then to the right there, some sort of swamp. So we'll go through my opponent's army and deployment first. So to the left there, we have a Saber Tusk and 2 Mornfang cavalry. To the back, we've got the Iron Blaster. Ahead are 2 Lead Belchers, and then that giant unit there, I believe, is 4, 8, 9, 10. 10 Iron Guts, and then there's a Slaughtermaster in there and a Bruiser. Then there are 10 Noblars with Trappers, 4 more Lead Belchers, and then 3 Mornfang, and then all the way to the right there is one last Saber Tusk. And then for my army, from top left to bottom right, top left I've got 5 War Dogs. I've got my 3 Juggernauts, the Skull Crushers. I got some more War Dogs there, and then that unit of Warriors with the Halberds, those are Corn Warriors with Halberds, so they've got a lot of offense, so I wanted to bring those units, those guys, just to get up in the face of the Ogres, get charged, but just deal out a whole lot of damage. I expect them to die for the most part. There are 12, so 6, 12, 18, 24 attacks altogether, as long as I don't lose any guys at Weapon Skill 5, Strength 5, Initiative 5, so hopefully I'm striking first. I can deal a whole lot of damage out, so we'll see how that goes. And then I've got 2 units of 20 Nurgle Chaos Warriors with hand weapon shields, and then I've got 5 War Dogs, and then I've got a Dragon Ogre Shaggoth with Great Weapon. So the Shaggoth I brought, I knew there was a chance he might bring an Iron Blaster, so you know what? I wanted to use this guy because he's fun, he's big, even though he's kind of vulnerable to a cannon, but I also did bring him in case my opponent brought a Thunder Tusk, because that area of effect, always strike last, is not fun with Warriors of Chaos, because you really want that initiative so you can strike first and deal as much damage before the Ogres do. Then for my hero, I didn't bring any casters. I only brought a Lord on foot, and I gave him some equipment, but the big thing I wanted to try out is the Hellfire Sword. The 65-point sword that I think would work very well against Ogre Kingdoms. It is flaming attacks, so if he gets Troll gets off, not an issue. Multiple wounds, D3, which is pretty great, and then there's no armor save. And then it does this little tricky thing. For every foe that is slain, which isn't that great against ogres because there's going to be not as many casualties. There will be wounds, but you do a casualty for every 3 wounds, so it's good against infantry. But for every foe slain, you roll a d6. And on the roll of a 6, you do an additional d6 strength 4 hits to the unit, which is pretty cool. And now those are also flaming attacks. So it's pretty cool, but there is that downside, which is at the end of your turn, you always roll a dice, and on the roll of a 1, you take a wound, no armor save. Which, I mean, 1/6 chance, I mean, at least at any point during the game, you're going to take a wound. But since we usually play closed lists, so if you've got scouts or something that shows up later in the game, or magic items or assassins or whatnot, it's all hidden. So this item unfortunately reveals the fact that you have it because I have to roll at the end of every turn. And then the other thing with the Chaos Lord, he is marked Nurgle. So against even Iron Guts that are only weapon skill 3, it's going to be required 6s to hit him. So he's very defensive against any ogres for the most part. Alright, so for Warriors of Chaos, turn 1, I don't have shooting and don't have magic, so really all I do is shuffle up. You can see in this picture here, everyone moves up, and then the Ogre Shaggoth just kind of gets in the way where I can charge through that little hole in between the dogs and the building, but the Mornfang can't get through. If he wants to charge with the Saber Tusk, by all means, feel free. And then over here, you can see the War Dogs just kind of get geared up for any flank charges or anything. For the most part, they're just there to get in the way, and they're usually not useful in combat at all. But that's Warriors of Chaos turn 1. Alright, so for Ogre Kingdoms turn 1, we have a Saber Tusk charge, they both do, on War Dogs. The Mournfang charged the Skull Crushers, so I'm kind of afraid for that. Those impact hits would just be kind of scary. However, he false charges, so hooray! The Lead Belchers move back a little bit, and then everything else does just move around. During magic, the signature spell is casted onto the Mournfang, and that's it for magic. Shooting, the Lead Belchers shoot at the Corn Warriors. They get 10 hits on them, but only do 1 wound, and I didn't save it, so 1 dies there. And then the other Lead Belchers, just to be productive, I think they were either out of range of the Skull Crushers, or whatever it might have been. He shot at the dogs, got a bunch of hits, but only killed 1 dog. The Iron Blaster, hooray! Shoots at the Dragon Ogre Shaggoth, surprise. Of course, the thing is super accurate with its bounces, so it kills the Ogre Dragon Shaggoth. On turn 1, it does 6 wounds or something ridiculous. So, mind you, I am starting the game essentially 217 points short, or 227 points short. So that's kind of crippling for the start. During combat, the War Dogs, this group kills 1 Saber Tusk, and then one of the Saber Tusks kills some dogs and then overruns them, or breaks them. Doesn't actually catch them, but they do break and run into the forest. Warriors of Chaos turn 2 is a pretty quick turn again. The Skull Crushers issue a charge, and you can see there they only need a 6 due to the fact that he false charged last turn and just closed the gap in between us. So they make a successful charge, which is awesome. Everything else moves up full. The War Dogs move up so I can prevent a flank charge on the Skull Crushers in case I don't destroy his guys. And then the Warriors all move up front. Trying to figure out, where the Warriors are going to attack. For the most part, I think the middle unit of Warriors, the 20 Nurgle, will probably end up fighting the giant unit of Iron Guts, and the Noblars would just get in the way. But at this point, I'm feeling a little hesitant with the Corn Warriors. At one point, I wanted to put them into the building and then just have them come out later, which I think I would have, looking back, rather done, because I would have saved them and they would have been better turn 3 or turn 4 for cleanup, because there's so few in numbers. So honestly, it looks like if he goes to charge me right now, it's going to be a crap load of impact hits that probably get destroyed before they even get to attack. So I didn't know what he was going to do, and I didn't even know if he was going to be able to make that charge. I think he needed like an 8 or 9 to get there, which isn't impossible, but so instead of putting in the building and putting them out of the game, I figured I would just move them up anyway and see what happens. I also thought he might not charge with them, because I was thinking he might think I might charge the Noblars for an overrun onto the Iron Guts, which would have mean I would have taken the dangerous terrain tests when I charged the Noblars, destroyed them, and then overrun them into the Iron Guts, which for him wouldn't have been the end of the world, because he's got so many of them. He would have easily eaten up that unit because there's so few Chaos Warriors, and then he could have, worried about the Nurgle units after they shot him up a little bit with the cannon and the Lead Belchers. So, kind of interesting to see what happens there. And then, in close combat, the Skull Crushers destroy the Mournfang. I break them, overrun, catch them, and end up right there. Alright, so with Ogre Kingdoms turn 2, the Mournfang charge those dogs, and I issue a flee, hoping that he fails his redirect into my Chaos Warriors, but also fails the charge into the Chaos Warriors. But he makes a successful charge onto them. Surprise, surprise, the Iron Guts charge the Halberdier Corn Warriors and smashes right into them. And then everything else just moves around. During magic, Troll Guts, unfortunately, got off with like 20, 23, 24. That's the range one too. So I couldn't do anything about it. So I didn't have a caster, and I wasn't able to dispel it. So I mean, shame on me, but we'll see. And then a bunch of shots are done with the lead belchers, but kills only one guy. Between the impact hits, the riders, and the mounts, the Mornfang unit was only able to kill 3 Chaos Warriors, and I was unable to do any wounds back on him, which really sucked. Ryan loves using these guys, and if you're interested in seeing the analysis of the math behind them, check out our Under Over Just Right video, annotation right here. But they're really tough to kill, especially with the armor save, and the fact that they also have the ward save is tough. But nobody breaks there. And then he didn't get too many impact hits onto the Chaos Warriors, so I am able to do a crap load of attacks, but he regens 8 of the wounds I do. So I ended up doing about 12 wounds, and he regens 8 of them, which, I mean, is pretty good for Ryan. So I wasn't able to kill as many ogres as I was hoping for. He crushes them and essentially overruns out of sight for my other warriors to see them. Oh, and I forgot the Iron Blaster took out a Skull Crusher. Warriors of Chaos turn 3. I end up just moving my Skull Crushers towards that cannon, and then I turn the Warriors of Nurgle around to face the oncoming Ogre unit. And then in combat, nothing crazy happens. I lose 3 more guys, and I'm only able to do 1 wound onto the Mornfang with all those Chaos Warriors. So on to Ogre Turn 3. So he does turn his guys around. He does get Troll Guts off again. And the big thing is he gets off the Toughness spell. So I'm fighting high toughness ogres with regen, and there's just nothing I can do about it. And you can also see he moves the lead belchers into that building there. So for Warriors of Chaos, turn 4. The Skull Crusher charges the lead belchers, and then the Nurgle Warriors, of course, charge the Iron Guts. I have to charge. I know he's got the regen off and the toughness test off, but honestly, I'd rather charge now than have to deal with the impact hits later. And then with our combat, with the Mornfang, I finally kill one, which I'm thrilled about, but he ends up killing a couple more of my guys, and we just stay there and fight. I just can't believe how long we stay there and fight. With the Warriors fighting the Iron Guts, I kill like 1 guy, and it's just sad. My Lord actually missed all of his attacks. He rolled 1s and 2s. It was so upsetting, and then he ends up knocking out 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Chaos Warriors. I end up doing no damage, like I said. It's just terrible. I needed 4 to pass my leadership test to stay, and I actually rolled it. So they stay there and fight another turn. And then the Skull Crusher does some damage to the lead belchers, but some crazy reason they freaking stay. So we go on to Ogre Kingdom's turn 4. We're fighting. Looking at this combat right here still. He gets his regen off onto his Iron Guts, which is fine. I'm glad he spent the dice on that because Brian knew that my heroes attacks were flaming attack. He didn't realize I had the banner that gave the entire unit flaming attack, so I just let him have it. Didn't care at all. Alright, so at this point I apologize. My camera died, so I switched over to my iPhone. And I'm just going to sum up the rest of the game because it just kind of dragged out. My warriors slowly died. I had 20 warriors in each turn, in each unit, and it just kind of sucked that I couldn't kill the freaking Mournfang. The one Mournfang I couldn't do wounds on ever. Now there's only one. I have less surface area, so I'm getting even less attacks in, and he slowly grinds me down till I lose combat, and he actually chases me and overruns, which, looking back at, I think it's crazy that 2 Mournfang, over the course of like 4 turns, grind down a unit of 20 Chaos Warriors of Nurgle, and then gets to the point where he breaks them, runs them down, gets the banner. It's just, I mean, I know the math on these guys are good, but that was just intense. And if I could have gotten those guys to kill his Mournfang real quick, real early, and then used them to help myself in the rest of the game, I would have had a chance. But it's just crazy that those 2 guys tied up that unit for such a long time. And then eventually the warriors over in this combat die out, and it's just the Lord, and I end up doing better with just the Lord because he's not getting any combat res on the unit. So, looking back, I think I would have been better off just charging the Lord out of the unit, let him do his little fire attacks, no armor save, multiple wound BS on the unit, and give him less surface area to attack me, and honestly, I would have been able to do enough wounds to just stay. I mean, he would be getting 1 for combat res, 1 for rank bonus, and 1 for a banner. Like that's it. Like it would not be super crazy on the combat res. I probably would win most of the time because if he's got I believe 5 attacks and he's hitting, let's say, let me just confirm 5 attacks. He has 5 attacks, let's say 4 hit, and even only 3 wounds at D3, no armor save, no regen. I mean, I'd be doing at least 6 combat res a turn on wounds, but I mean, at that point, it doesn't matter. But I mean, looking back, that's what I should have done. I should have charged the hero out and let him do his damage, but I didn't know that my warriors were going to suck and the hero was going to miss like all of his attacks. So sad. But overall, a pretty interesting game. I mean, I brought giant blocks of warriors so I can do alright against the freaking ogres, but they just they got dwindled down real quickly. Even with the -1 to hit, that's tough. So the Lord, he barely, I don't think he like ever got a hit or wound onto him because he it was 6s to hit him, and then it was just silly. But so I hope you guys enjoyed this game. Kind of brushed through it pretty quickly at the end, but yeah. So if you have any questions or comments, subscribe also, but leave your questions and comments below, and then tune into our next battle report. Thanks, guys.